was nothing, just lights in the trees, a trick of the frost, a ghost on the breeze. But I saw a mirror older than me, staring through time like it wanted to speak. The forest went silent, the world held its breath. Something was watching beyond life and death. We stepped through the green, boots breaking the seal, not chasing a light, but something too real. I came back with salt on my skin, my mind split wide where the storm got in. They call it a test, but I know the deal. History blinks beneath the green veil.
Chapter 13 deepens the mystery and danger. Jack and Sergeant B face their past as General Ashburn resurfaces, the very man who deceived them in 1980. For the first time, they see suppressed footage revealing that what they encountered wasn't a craft, but a sentient harmonic interface, a recursive node buried beneath Rendlesham. The truth, they were manipulated, their memories erased, and Jack's resonance exploited to keep the feedback loop open. The stakes intensify as new discoveries emerge. Subterranean chambers beneath Capel Green, already reactivating and synchronizing nightly at 2313 GMT. Globally, rival powers begin intercepting the resonance, attempting to tune into the convergence for themselves. Breaches are detected, Russia and China prepare their own bunkers, and strange global phenomena ripple outward. Babies speaking the word echo, unexplainable church bells, repeating signals in background radiation, and shared dreams of Capel Green. The world is awakening to the signal. Chapter 13 sets the stage for open confrontation, not just between nations but between humanity and the phenomenon itself. The convergence is no longer hidden. It is spreading, and time is running out.
Ashburn's face, the years
December 19th, 2025, 08:15 hours Eastern Standard Time. Raven Rock, secure debriefing chamber. 3A. The room was cold and windowless, bare steel walls, a single screen, and 2 chairs bolted to the floor. It was the kind of room designed for truths too dangerous to echo. Jack Barrett and Sergeant Adrian B. sat across from each other, the silence between them filled with shared memory and unspoken trauma. The door hissed open. Dr. Elias Voss and CIA analyst Christopher Hunter Green entered, followed by a third figure neither Jack nor B had seen in years. General Malcolm Ashburn, the man who had debriefed them in 1980, the man who swore it was just lights in the woods. The man who, as it turned out, had been running an unauthorized program under the guise of Air Force intelligence. He looked older, haunted. Jack didn't stand. "Didn't expect to see your face again," Jack muttered. Ashburn nodded, eyes flat. "I didn't come to lie this time." Hunter Green set a tablet on the table. The screen flickered to life. Archival video footage from December 1980. What played next had never been shown in any official report. Thermal footage of the forest. EM field graphs pulsing in spirals. And then, a shape, not a craft, but a structure, rising from the ground itself, lit from within by blue-gold light. Sergeant B leaned forward. That wasn't what we saw." "No," Voss said. "That's what you were allowed to remember." Ashburn took a breath. The object in the woods wasn't a craft. It was a sentient harmonic interface, a recursive node, possibly placed here long before civilization. The incident wasn't an accident. It was scheduled. You were drawn in because Jack's biological profile resonated with the field, and Adrian, you were placed there to observe how proximity affected memory integrity. Jack's voice was hollow. "You used us." Ashburn didn't deny it. "We didn't understand what we were dealing with. We still don't, but what we learned is that the object wasn't from somewhere else. It was from somewhen. It was designed to respond not to authority or intellect, but to frequency. You, Jack, created a feedback loop, and it's still open." Sergeant B's knuckles whitened. "You wiped our memories." Hunter Green nodded. "We had no choice." The radiation signature you both absorbed was non-ionizing but neurologically recursive. You were reliving moments out of sequence, seeing things that hadn't happened yet. Jack, you wrote Leo's future before he was even conceived. The room went still. Voss stepped forward and projected a hologram, a map of Capel Green overlaid with new construction zones. "We've uncovered what we believe to be subterranean chambers beneath the original landing site. Not natural, not modern. They appear to react to Jack's presence." "And they've started reactivating," Hunter Green added. "Since you re-engaged with the signal, they've been pulsing every night, at precisely 23:13 GMT. Jack leaned back. Christmas Eve. Ashburn placed a sealed folder on the table. "Inside is everything that was kept from you, documents, medical scans, intercepts from 1981, even communications from Project Moondial and Operation I-Phase. Read it, because when you return to Rendlesham, you won't be walking into a forest. You'll be walking into the origin point." December 19th, 2025. 1300 hours Eastern Standard Time. Raven Rock Mountain Complex, Threat Operations Center. Alarms didn't sound at Raven Rock, not the kind that echoed. Instead, the lighting changed. Subtle. Red bands around the ceiling softened to deep amber. That meant a breach attempt, not local but strategic. The kind that meant eyes were turning toward the mountain and hands were moving. Hunter Green stood over the table, scanning telemetry feeds. "We've got 2 incursions," he said. one near Colorado, fainting drone swarms. The second, more subtle. Russian. Voss turned from the internal neural sync display. How close? Hunter Green didn't look up. Close enough that our satellite relay in Ohio blinked. He brought the screen to life. A diagram displayed a geosynchronous satellite over the East Coast. The relay had received an unauthorized quantum key handshake attempt. The point of origin was masked behind a Siberian comms network. The data stream wasn't in bytes, it was in resonant intervals. They're not trying to steal information, Hunter Green said. They're trying to hear the signal. Real-time frequency intercepts. Jack and Sergeant B entered just in time to catch the last part. Jack frowned. They're listening in on the convergence? Not just listening, Voss said darkly. They're tuning in, which means they have a copy of part of the waveform, likely from Leo's early resonance pulses. That means they're not just aware, they're preparing for their own interface. Sergeant B looked at Jack. If they tried to recreate this without understanding it, Jack finished the thought. They might break the world. Secure channel, NSC Emergency Policy Session, 14:10 hours Eastern Standard Time. President Rayner appeared on the internal SCIF comms, joined by the Secretary of Defense, the Director of National Intelligence, and 2 Joint Chiefs. His voice was calm, but edged. We've had 2 near penetrations, satellite taps and high-altitude drone decoys. China knows we're preparing for an event at Rendlesham. Russia's not far behind. The DNI leaned forward. They've activated bunkers outside Novosibirsk and Xichang. They're not sure what's coming, but they know it's not natural. The Secretary of Defense broke in. Then we tell them. We go public, early. Controlled disclosure. A global alert coordinated through the UN before Christmas Eve. But Voss appeared on a secondary secure screen. No, he said plainly. If you go public now, you trigger chaos. Markets collapse. Militaries start shadow prepping for false flag retaliation. You don't reveal an unknown frequency event 5 days before convergence. You give them just enough to wait. President Rayner looked weary. And if we lose control of the narrative, Hunter Green answered this time, then the narrative controls us, and the phenomenon might change its tone. Meanwhile, global effects spread. December 19th to 2000 GMT. In South Korea, a child born at midnight opened his eyes and said one word in English. Echo. In Italy, church bells rang at 3:13 a.m. with no one pulling the ropes. In South Africa, a group of deep space radio telescopes detected a repeating harmonic sequence embedded in background radiation. It matched a waveform last seen during the original Rendlesham incident in 1980. And across the world, civilians, unconnected, unaware, began dreaming of 2 figures in a forest lit by a pale sphere. One older, one younger. They dreamed of a name. A place, Capel Green, Raven Rock, Observation, Chamber Beta. December 19th, 2300 hours Eastern Standard Time. Jack stood alone, watching the pulse chamber throb through the glass. Leo sat in stillness, the waveform inside him no longer rising. It was listening. B entered behind him. So what now? He asked. Jack didn't answer at first. Then, the world's starting to feel it. B folded his arms. And we've still got 5 days left. Jack turned, eyes hard. We don't need 5. We need 1 night. He glanced down at the countdown clock. T-minus. 4 days, 2 hours, 13 minutes. And it was getting louder. Chapter 13 closes with revelations that shatter the last layers of denial. Jack Barrett, Sergeant B, Voss, Hunter Green, and even the disgraced General Ashburn confront the truth. The Rendlesham object was never a craft, but a harmonic interface rooted in time itself. Memories were wiped, futures pre-written, and Jack's resonance left a feedback loop still open. Meanwhile, Russia and China are already intercepting fragments of the signal, preparing their own attempts at interface. As anomalous events ripple worldwide, children speaking in prophecy, bells ringing without cause, telescopes detecting echoes, the countdown accelerates. Jack understands the phenomenon will not wait. What lies beneath Rendlesham is awakening, and the world is beginning to feel it. Chapter 14. The Last Silence escalates the drama onto a global stage. Leaders convene in encrypted briefings, struggling to contain what is rapidly becoming more than a national incident. It is a continuity of species event. Beneath Capel Green, secret staging grounds are prepared with exotic arrays, containment rings, and amplifiers keyed directly to Jack and Leo's blood resonance. But rival powers are already building mirror fields, and Lopner in China stirs with its own activation. Jack, Leo, and Sergeant B are scheduled for covert transfer, but Voss unveils a radical alternative: direct phased insertion through the convergence field itself. The world edges toward collapse or transcendence as the last silence breaks. Every step a risk, every moment a test of whether humanity can cross the threshold without shattering.
Through the silence of time, I walked alone, but the stars knew my name in undertone. From Rendlesham woods to Saturn skies, I carry the echo, I lived the why. It wasn't the end, it was unfolding. Not contact made, but truth beholding. Beyond the war, beyond the flame, we were just shadows, we became the song inside the light.
And good evening, everyone, and welcome to Chapter 13, The Watchers Below. How are you gentlemen doing tonight?
Awesome. How are you doing, Bill?
Doing great, John.
Floating away.
Well, after Chapter 12, the Core Nexus, that's pretty much, and you were telling us, Chris and I, you got to wait. It's coming. Just stand by. You're all going to understand it soon. So based on what we've seen in Chapter 12 and all those that are watching and listening, I mean, you can see where this is, I think, where we're going, right, Chris? Maybe? Kinda?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I'm seeing more and more how Leo's playing a pivotal part. Jack Barrett's playing a pivotal part. You know, the connection between the two, and it's interesting because I'm also focusing their relationship with the military and the scientists that are basically trying to control them.
Yes. So let's just get right to it right now. Let's air Chapter 13, The Watchers Below, and we'll comment thereafter. So everyone, here we go. Chapter 13, The Watchers Below. All right, we're back. I hope you enjoyed that. I know we did. Well, John already knows what's coming, Chris. It's not like he's surprised by anything that's going on.
No, but I'd like to hear what John's take is of this. We usually do the take, but I'd like to hear John's take.
No, you guys go ahead. I'll fill in the pieces as we go. What's your take?
Well, it's interesting the role that the general plays again in this chapter, coming back, 1980 flashback to see that the character. What was his name? Ashburn, I believe in here, Chris. General Ashburn.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Now, also to see how Jack and his son, their roles moving forward, and also the roles of other governments trying to decipher the signal itself. It almost looks like they're trying to get the inside, but then if they don't truly understand what they're dealing with, it can make just matters really chaotic and catastrophic, really.
I think there's a bunch of chaos to the whole thing anyways, because I think they're it's not so much that they're understanding it, it's that they're working to understand it, but in doing so, it's in some ways creating a. I look at it and see a distortion to how they want to work with it. That's my take.
Another curious thing was a newborn child saying "echo." I was like, "What?" Or the satellites. The dishes here on on the ground, picking up a signal. And you think right away interstellar. You think of this 3-eye atlas. That was the one thing I said, oh my gosh, look how this ties into that. So there was a lot of nuances there that I found like really interesting on how this could proceed forward, because obviously we still have 9 more chapters to go.
Oh, absolutely. John, what's your take of all this?
It's secrets. Nothing but secrets. The governments keep secrets from each other. They're individually, each government's trying to find a way to conquer each other. And inside our government, there's secrets being kept from individuals inside the government. I mean, all you have to do is go back to the last hearings they just had. And the one guy, I forget his name now, it was a few weeks ago, but he actually came off pretty credible. And when
Bolin, I think it was Bolin.
Yeah, the guy that had interactions,
Langley.
Whatever, yeah. He came off and no one challenged his credibility. But first of all, it was a subcommittee holding the hearings, which means nothing's going to happen.
Yes.
You have to have the main committee with the chairman running it, because there is some weight.
I agree.
So it was a subcommittee holding the hearings. And what did do you guys remember what he told them? He looks at him and says, well, to discuss this further, we'd have to go into the skiff, but you don't even have the clearance, even if we went into the skiff to understand or hear what I know, what I could talk about.
I think that's the same thing David Grush talked about. Wasn't it, John? The same thing Grush
I don't remember if Grush was that blunt about it. I think him and Elizondo all said they needed to go into a skiff to talk about it, but this guy just said, not only do we have to go into the skiff, but you will not even have the clearances to be able to be told what I know.
But that's why in one of the past hearings, Nancy Mace said, listen, this overclassification BS has to stop, because that's what they do, so they can make it so at a high classification that a lot of them just can't get the access to it.
Well, go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say the overclassification probably is the cause because of what Grush said and what this guy alluded to, that people have been harmed, injured, and even killed over this. And Leland said the same thing, basically, and he was worried, and he knows that if he went too far, just like Grush said, if he goes too far, just like Lou Elizondo said, if you go too far, they're going to take retribution. So I think this guy was smart enough to say, hey, I'm not going to go this far out in public.
Well, I think it goes deeper than that with this guy, this particular guy I'm talking about. Whatever they're working on, whatever he knows, only a small amount of people should have access to this.
But you just at the very onset of this, you made a great point, John. If they get the people in there, not a subcommittee, get the big honchos, the gang of 8, or some members like that have the clearance in a hearing, then it can be taken as home.
But that's the point that people don't understand. Only the gang of 8 has a high clearance. even Comer, which is that's his subcommittee, he doesn't have the clearance or the need to know on what this guy knows. It would only
Remember
be
what Roosevelt said, what Roosevelt did and said. And this is kind of frightening about that, because I think when you talk about overclassification, Roosevelt was ready to send a battalion of soldiers into Area 51 because they refused to tell Roosevelt what was going on there. They basically told him, you don't have a need to know. He's the president of the United States, and he going, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to send a battalion of soldiers down there, take over the place.
Isn't that the same president, though, that kept the Manhattan Project secret from everybody, even his vice president, but maybe the people working on the project, and that was it?
I'm sorry. No, I beg your pardon. It wasn't Roosevelt, Eisenhower. Eisenhower.
Oh, yeah, that's right, it was. But Roosevelt kept the Manhattan Project secret from everybody.
Right.
Truman did not even know about it until after he died, and then and was sworn in. So you want to talk about secrets? That's what I'm talking about. It's secrets.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the thing, though. We're talking about something that the president knew about. Eisenhower knew about it, and said, "I want to be briefed in," and they refused to brief him in. Now, I mean, obviously, the same thing happened with Roosevelt and Truman and the whole bit, but to say, if you don't brief me in, I'm going to send an armed force to take over the base. And finally, they said you could send a couple representatives down that we deem appropriate and allow them to see. So, I mean, I think we hit it on the head with the overclassification. You got to let the civilian population know what's going on.
Well, can I argue that? Okay, let's go to the Manhattan Project. That project, no one should have known about it. I'm not saying at the end of the day it should have even been utilized, but when you're working on that type of weapon system and stuff, you don't want anybody to know about it. Now, they even misled the Russians. If you know the story, the Russians, their initial project was not going to work. They knew that. They kept the funding and the large group working on it to make the Russians think that was what was going to work. Then they divided and they took a smaller group away from that, and they worked on the real bomb. And they actually fed the Russians information from the first project, and the Russians were 5 years behind when the bomb was introduced and exploded.
But here's the difference between the Manhattan Project and this project going on. I have never heard of anybody during the Manhattan Project that was murdered, intentionally murdered.
But where's the proof?
What do you mean?
And there was actually, if you watched the movie, there were scientists that stood up against it and they disappeared. Some of the scientists that were working on the bomb actually tried to get away, and they were apprehended, and some of them disappeared.
Well,
again.
Oh, John, I have never heard of a scientist being murdered or disappeared. And
well, that's the point. It never became public, but there were several scientists that disappeared that tried to go get out of the project.
Right. But we know publicly now, people have said that over the UFO project.
But where's the proof? That's my problem with this whole thing. I got stories that I could tell that I was involved with that no one would believe, because no matter what I told them,
right? But
I can't totally prove it.
Right, but you're having 3 or 4 high, I won't say high ranking, but high ranking government people, military people coming out and telling you, people have been murdered over this.
But
why would you make up a lie? I mean, I don't see Grush making up a lie.
I don't. I'm not saying it isn't possible. What I'm saying is these guys keep constantly throwing bullets out there with no ammunition.
And that's why
there's no gunpowder, there's no proof. And until you should be able to give a name. You should be able to give a name right now and say, look at this individual here.
But they never followed up on it, John. If you look at all the questioning done by the congressman, they never followed up. You would think that one of them would turn around and say, wait a minute, stop the show right now. Who was murdered? They never asked that. Right. They never said, wait a minute, you said that people were murdered?
Here's the problem I have, and we got to wrap up already. Can you believe it? I'll close it out with this. This is why I am sick and tired of the hearings, because it's all talk, no documentation, nothing to associate it with any kind of facts, evidence whatsoever. It's just a story. Unless they back it up with something that can provide some kind of evidentiary trail, names, data, documents. I don't care what it is. Give us something, because it's the same old, same old.
Well, why? One other thing, I know we got to wrap it up. Why didn't these people go to the New York Times? Why didn't one of these people go and give a name? And they did it. They did it with Watergate. They did it with these other things. They did it with MK Ultra. If this is really true, go give the investigative branch of a newspaper or 60 Minutes. Give them the name, and then let them investigate it.
Because if they did that, John, then they wouldn't have whistleblower status. These guys are protecting their pensions, their livelihood, and their families and everything.
The whistleblower would protect them. They're saying somebody got killed, and they can prove it. They would not lose their whistleblower status.
Yes, they would, John. Everything has to go through.
They should have lost it already. Then by coming out publicly and saying somebody was killed, that means that somebody on the inside, technically the way the whistleblower program works, had to approve them to admit that somebody was killed. So if they came out and said that,
then that's it. But you don't think that Grush didn't tell the Inspector General? Says, hey, everything, because Grush actually said it. He says, before I tell you everything, I got to tell it to the Inspector General, and the Inspector General has to approve of it. That's how you get the whistleblower status.
No, it's not the IG that approves it. I know the system. The person that No, but the person that has to approve that, Chris, is the handler. It's not the Inspector General of the VA or whatever.
He approves it, John. It's not that he has to bring it. He has to approve it. The Inspector General.
No, they don't. They don't. It's the agency that's involved with whatever happened. If there was somebody killed by an agency and this person worked in this agency, the handler of the project, the people that ran the project and handled it, are the ones that can or cannot approve the information we release. The IG is oblivious to it. They're never involved in it. They don't have any control over it.
He has to. Lou Elizondo said the same thing. David Grush said the same thing. All these guys that come out with information have to have it approved by the Inspector General's office.
The Inspector General doesn't have the evidence.
They
don't have the evidence.
What he's going to say, the Inspector General has the word to say, you could say this and you can't. This you have to say in a...
Go back and look it up, because they're lying.
Wait a minute.
It's not the Inspector General.
If there's no evidence to back up, even if he's to throw out a name, her hearing it from a third person or anything else, wouldn't they say, well, this is something you just can't discuss because there's no evidence to prove otherwise?
Grush said, I can't talk about Roswell. The Inspector General will not allow me to talk about Roswell.
He's not telling you the truth about who's hiding in the things. The Inspector General does not. Chris, I'm telling you this. I went through this.
I'm telling you, John, he does.
Chris, I went through the military. I know what agency and what agencies can and can't. The Inspector General, the only job the Inspector General has is if something's not being done right inside an agency, whichever agency
How do you get whistleblower status? You get whistleblower status by getting approval, by going to the Inspector General and saying
they have to investigate it. They don't have the final say.
How do you think these guys get their books? Don't they have to?
No, it's not.
Government agencies. They can't put out a book that has stuff in it.
Wait a minute, Chris. Lou Elizondo. I'm not. Lou Elizondo gave the agency that had to approve the book, and it wasn't the Inspector General. There is an agency inside government that every single book that you write that may have something to do with classified has the final say, but it's not the Inspector General's office.
All right, Chris, I'll give you the final word because we got to wrap. I interrupted you, Chris. Say that once again.
No, I'm done.
All right. This could be continued on a Saturday show, but for right now, we have to wrap it up because we're short of time. And I hope everyone enjoyed Chapter 13, The Watches Below. Stay tuned for next week, Chapter 14, Thursday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. And we'll see everybody again live on 8. And I'm sure this will pick up again once we get to that show on Saturday. So everyone, have a great night. Enjoy the upcoming weekend, and we'll see you on Saturday. So till then, good night.